Welcome to the Tone series, where I'm going to be teaching you how to dial in tone for your Sunday service. So, starting off, I'm using guitar is a Fender Partscaster with a Seymour Duncan Low 59 and a Seymour Duncan P90 in the neck. What I'm going to be going over, it can be applied to anything, whether you're using a real amp and pedals, HX Stomp, Pod Go, GP200, Tone X, any of those units out there, you'll be able to follow along with this. So, starting off, we're going to go over here. You can see I have the gate on. It's your preference whether or not you want a gate. I put it on almost all my presets because it's just needed. Some guitars, they just hum, and you can't help that. So, going with our first block, amp and cab. We're going to be building a full preset here on this one path. We won't be going to a full dual amp preset in this video. So this will just be one line, a compressor, two drives and a boost, amp, modulation, delay, reverb. So I'm going to go to my amp and cab, and I'm going to take the AC30 font normal. First thing I'm going to do, we're going to drop the drive a lot. This amp is usually set pretty hot, and we don't need that much breakup. So let's just listen to it as is with the drive lowered. Sounds okay, but we can make it better. We're going to go over to the cab. It's got a 57 dynamic, really basic mic. Sounds good. But me personally, for AC30s, I like to hook them up with a 7 dynamic, which is the Shure SM7B. Position, we're going to bring it over here to the cap edge. Distance 0, no angle, and we're going to take off the high cut. A lot of people like to put the high cut at 9K because it emulates a real cab, but with the way I dial the amps, it sounds better if you leave it off. So, let's see where we're at now with the new mic. We're already a lot better. We got rid of a lot of the muddiness just with that one move. Drive, I think it's still, we're still breaking up a little too much. So we're going to back this down to about 2.5. That's better. Next, we'll drop the bass a little bit because we don't need a lot of bass. That's the cold hard truth, is that we don't need it. In a full mix, you're going to let your bass and your drums handle the low end. The cut, I'll usually leave at 0. Unless I'm using a guitar with Filtertron pickups, Filtertron style pickups, or single coils, then I'll bring it up. But for the most part, I like the frequency that the cut allows in. The treble on this amp, if we raise it all the way, really harsh. I usually raise it to find out what frequency it's raising, which helps me dialing it in. So this one, for instance, does not raise a good frequency. It's raising up some of like your higher mids. It's giving it more treble, but it's not good. Not on this amp, at least. So we're going to actually lower that. Not all the way, because it still contributes. If we lower it all the way, then we lose a lot of that. So we're going to bring it up about 3.3. The presence, what I've found dialing in so many different amps on the Helix, is this presence control, for the most part, will be from your 5K and up. That's usually what it'll be boosting, depending on the amp. And on the AC30s, it raises a good frequency. It's really pleasant to the ear. If you don't raise it too much. So without and with. Channel volume, I'll leave it where it's at. Master volume, I don't touch for the most part. I usually leave it stock wherever it's at, unless I feel like it needs adjusting. But for most pedal platform amps, your Fenders, your AC30s, your Matchless, all those kind of amps, you want to leave it cranked. Sag, I'm going to pick that up to about 9.5. I found on the Vox AC30s, you need it around 9.5. You want to get a lot of that tube amp saturation. And that's what it's doing. It's basically a compressor. Not a very harsh one, but it adds tube compression. Hum, I'm going to take out. It just adds the hum of a real amp, which we don't need. Ripple, I'll bring down. It interacts with the hum when the drive is high. So we don't necessarily need that. The bias and the bias X are two of the most important parameters in any amp. So for AC30s, I like to lower it, but you don't want to lower it too much. So here's an example of that. Oops. So here's with the bias low. You can hear the way it's breaking up. It's not good. And if you raise it, you're taking that out entirely. And what it's doing is, this is simulating what would happen if your tubes in your amp were hot or cold. And so for AC30s, I like to lower it, but not too much, just so I can hear that breakup. Bias X is another form of tube compression. I usually bring that up. Usually bring it up really high. If you've ever downloaded one of my free presets, you'll know that. I usually raise that up. So that's really solid bass tone. Now moving on to effects. We're going to start with compression. Depending on what type of compression you like, I myself am heavily inspired by a lot of the Warship compression that they do at Bethel, which is really poppy. And so my presets usually have this kind of compression in them. Really aggressive. It lowers your dynamics, which I like to do, which helps your front of house sound man out. So they don't have to be worrying about your level being everywhere. In a worship context, you don't need a huge level of dynamics. So what we're going to do first is raise up the sensitivity to about 7. In most of my presets, I'll run this at like 9 or 10. But to start out, we'll go 7. Mix. Again, you want it lower, so some of your bass tone still comes through. Attack, we'll bring up. That way there's that small gap between when we hit it and when it comes in. You can still hear that initial attack. If you don't want to hear it, you drop that all the way out. But I'm going to leave it pretty high, and I'm going to bring the release way down. Level as well. My general rule of thumb, for this compressor at least, is at 12 o'clock, which in here is at 5. I usually won't pass below 4. So I'm going to leave this at 4.5. And let's hear what that sounds like. So you can hear it's kind of that bias breakup, you can hear it, which I actually think it's a little bit too much. So let's go ahead and bring it up. Should be better now. So I'm actually going to lower the drive. Next thing to do will be to dial in your overdrive pedals. So you need to pick your first gain stage, your second gain stage, and your boost pedal. Those are the basics. That's what you need. You can go quite a ways with your volume volume knob on your guitar, but if you're able to have multiple drives, I highly recommend doing so. So to start out, I'm going to get the heir apparent. So we're going to lower the drive to start and lower the level. To kind of get everything neutral. We're going to put it on the overdrive circuit. So here's what we have. So we need more drive out of that, so we're going to pick it up to about 5.5. We're going to drop the presence, because on the heir apparent, the presence can get very, very harsh. We're going to bring the tone up. Now compared to our clean, way too quiet. We're going to bring it up. Still too quiet. We're going to bring it up some more. That sounds good. I'm going to pick up the presence. I want just a little bit more presence and volume. And that sounds great. That is our first gain stage. Second gain stage, you're going to want something like the Tima, the Minotaur, any type of boost, any type of tube screamer, any kinds of fuzz, or really anything. So we're going to go ahead and go with the Tima. This one I use all the time because it's reminiscent of the Kilt, the JHS Kilt, and I love that pedal. So to start, we're going to back the bass off, pick up the drive, because we want this more aggressive, and we're going to back the treble cut off. When you back the bass off, it tends to get more spitty and kind of fuzzy, so that's why I usually back that down, and I'll compensate with volume. So we're going to bring the volume up, and we're going to leave it on center clipping. Let's listen to this. Clean. Drive. We're actually going to bring that down a little bit. That sounds good. It's a big enough lift from our clean tone and from our first drive tone. Last overdrive, we're going to grab a boost. Now I can either go with the Kinky Boost or the Vital Boost, or even just a clean boost, putting a gain block. I'm going to go with the Vital Boost. Try something different. So it's literally just boost. That's all it's got. So we'll start at 2.2. Clean. That's actually lower. Let's pick it up quite a bit. Off. I'm going to raise it more. That's good. Raise it by like 0.2. Now let's test it with our drive. So here we go. The second stage. And I want to take it up a notch. We're going to turn on the boost. That sounds great. Now, to kind of balance out levels without sacrificing drive and saturation, I'm going to go over to the amp, and I'm going to crank the sag, and I'm going to bring up the bias. Now, when we turn on our drives, it'll compress the amp a little bit more. That's our drive section.